people can benefit from it later because they were going to miss it. Mythic, is it going to record the discussion in Discord from all players? Okay. There you go. I wanted it to make sense if someone asked a question. I didn't know if I had to repeat it for the stream. So good to know that everyone will hear the question too. Okay, so I'm going to be you know what? I'm going to have to turn my push to talk on because as I'm holding my key down, it's typing in my lesson plan, which is frustrating. Give me 1 second here. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. So I have a good portion of this talk is in the link that I originally linked for my Google Drive. And this is called Gold Making 101 with TSM and No Farming. And so if you have a separate screen and you want to follow along in the lesson plan, you can open that folder if you want. But the add-ons that you're going to need is you want to install the Trade Skill Master add-on and the App Helper add-on. And then you'll want to install the actual application for Trade Skill Master to the desktop. Is that required? I'm going to say yes. Technically, it's not, but if you do not have a background app refreshing the data of the auction house on all the regions, then every single time you open the auction house, you'll have to do a full scan, which can take 3 to 5 minutes. And that just really breaks the intent of the product, which is to make you efficient and streamlined and save you time. So I can tell you Hazelnutty, a famous Twitch streamer and YouTuber, she used this, she looked into it, and it's perfectly safe. It's not going to install any sort of spam bots on your computer. It's not gathering any data it's not supposed to, and it's not a heavy resource on your system. So you can trust it. It's been used for years now without any issues. So I would highly suggest downloading that app. You don't have to do anything with it after you initially install it, but you will have to set up a free account with TSM, just giving your email in order to download it. And then it just runs in the background, and a couple of times a day it updates all of the prices in the auction house so that you don't have to worry about that. And then finally, you want to use as a resource, I have several documents called groups of different kinds in that same drive. And you'll want to open those individually, and I'll show you where we'll be putting those in our settings to set up our groups. The intent of groups is that you have things categorized. TSM doesn't automatically know that something is categorized. So when you first open your bag, and I'll show you here an example, if I click on my TSM gear up here, or I could have typed in /TSM there, and I click on the groups up here, if there's anything in my bags that I have never personally added to a group, it's going to appear here. When you first open TSM, this will be everything in your bags on all characters. I've gone to the trouble of organizing things into groups. So for Selenium ore in particular, that needs to go here into the mining for Shadowlands. And so I would select it and add it. And I'm going to cover this again in detail, but when we get to that step. But I just wanted to point out that those groups are something that you have to create. You can use the ones that I've done. I've gone through and clicked on each of these groups and done an export. And I've pasted the string into documents for you guys so that you can highlight them, copy them, and then use this import feature to post them in. And then you'll have the groups that I've created. So let's get started with the setup of TSM itself. So again, as I mentioned, the this is weird that I'm in. You can click on the icon, or you can type in /TSM. And so what are some of these things that you have happening here? So the first thing is a dashboard. These are just fun statistics of sales, expenses, and profits. You can see that these are my total sales that I've had. This is the gold that I've spent. Why have I spent more gold than I've earned? Well, technically I haven't checked my mailbox this morning, so I may have had a big payoff on the fact that I spent a couple $100,000 yesterday trying to rank through Shadowghast rings, which are the legendary vessel. And so that when you're going up through the levels, especially level 1 and level 2, you spend more money than you make. And the reason for that is because there are several people that are doing that, and they're flooding the market. And so they're actually selling those rings for slightly less than it costs to make them, which is a real frustration. But I do my best to recoup my money. So whereas last expansion, where I didn't have those kind of big spenders that I was having to do, I had a very big profit margin. But this expansion, seems like you have to invest a lot in the ranks. And so I'm barely breaking even most days. But once I can get up to rank 3 and rank 4 in my items, it's big money. It's big profits on those items. So I'm not worried about it, and I'm having fun. So moving on to Ledger. Ledger just gives you details of your inventory and its value. As you can see here, on all my characters, I have the potential of $3 million in value, which is pretty impressive. So that kind of lets you know how much you're missing out on. The revenue here will show you your sales, so you can see what's been doing well, and you can pick different filters. Last 3 days, what's been the biggest sellers last 3 days. Other ways that you've gained revenue or through resale. Your expenses, same thing. It can show you where your expenses are coming from for your purchases. So I can see here, what has been, and I can click and sort it, and you can see these boogers here are what is making the Shadowghast rings cost so much. So, and then failed auctions can let you know what you've been trying to sell repeatedly and it's not selling. And so maybe at a certain point you say, you know what, the deposit that I'm putting in on this thing is not worth it, or my time is not worth it. I'm just going to vendor the thing. So that'll let you make that decision. So now we get to groups. I covered groups a little bit. The way that I sort my groups is first by the profession, and then secondly, whether it's crafts or materials, and then underneath that, the expansion. And that allows me to make, and the point of this organization is it allows you to make really quick operational decisions when you're mailing, purchasing, selling. And so that's the point of having things in groups. So you can see here, for example, my tailoring. I have crafting and all of the expansions. And if I click on, say, for example, Shadowlands, these are all the things that a tailor can make currently in Shadowlands. Interesting thing to note, you know how sometimes when you craft something, the name is the same, but the stats are different? Like one will be haste and mastery, one will be, crit and versatility. That technically makes two different items. And so if you make them, you'll want to open this groups and make sure it's not sitting here in your ungrouped items. And if it is, select it and add it to that grouping. Otherwise, for all future operations in TSM, it will not be knowing that that needs to be included, and it will ignore it for your operation. So it's good to regularly open your bag and check and make sure you don't have anything here in the ungrouped items. So in order to import, what you would do is you would pick import group, import string. I'm going to bounce over to one of the documents here. I'm going to pick the cooking group. All you do is highlight the entire, and you can't see this because I'm not sharing this portion of my screen, but I'm doing my best to explain this in detail. I copied the whole thing. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to hit Control V for pasting. It's going to say, here's what you're trying to import. It's going to call it cooking 1 because I already have cooking, so it auto-named it for me. It's importing all of its groups here. It's going to ask, do you want to move the 510 already grouped items? In other words, I already have these items grouped in cooking, just cooking. So it's saying, when you do this, it's going to move those items to this new one that you posted. Do you want to include operations that came with it? Do you want to replace the 10 existing operations and 1 existing custom sources? So as not to mess up my setup, I'm going to cancel out of here, but normally you would hit import. You would say, yes, I want to import all of these items. So then the next thing is, while you're in the groups tab, if you want to add any ungrouped items over, all you have to do is scroll down, pick what this goes into, and this would be mining Shadowlands. Click on the item and hit add 1 item, and boom, there you go. Now it's part of this group. So any questions so far?
I do.
Okay.
Sorry, the ungrouped items in bag. Did you say where where normal items go if they're not like ingredients or crafted items? Like, for example, the drinks that I have in here.
Yeah, so I have a consumables group that I created. I have a BOE group I created. I did not bother to put these up because it's really doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff in it, and I didn't want to really waste anyone's time. And it's really dependent on what you've ever had in your bags. So it might be something that you want to create yourself. But and when I say consumables, I don't mean crafted food that is in undercooking. I just mean anything that technically would probably never resell on the auction house necessarily. BOEs would resell though, and BOEs might have their own special operation for me than say anything that's actually crafted. I think that's it for, I have special procedures here where something has to be treated specially because it broke. It broke the algorithms, and so I had to do special workarounds. And then I also have toys that are in my bag that you can resell. So, okay. So then we have operations, and setting up operations is really the meat of how to use this product. So an operation is simply an action with rules for it to follow. And I have here built up the reason why I have the current expansion versus previous expansions is in the current expansion, maybe I know things are going to sell very easily and I really want to strictly adhere to the rules. I always want to make a profit. I'm willing to hang on to something in my bag until the market has cleared up or balanced out before I want to post it. But let's say that I decided I wanted to level alchemy for previous expansions. And why would you want to do that? Well, because sometimes items from previous expansions are still really big gold makers. For example, making a flying carpet as a tailor, that mount, even though several expansions old, still makes me about 400 G each time I make it. But so let's say I didn't have that leveled and I decided I'm going to go through the process of leveling. And unfortunately, getting there, I make a whole bunch of items that I'm never going to make gold off of, but I would at least like to try to recoup somewhat of my costs on them. And so I might say for these particular old items that are going to be hard to sell, I'm willing to sell them at any price that is the lowest price on the market. I don't care whether I make a profit. And so that's why personally I broke out originally some older expansion stuff with some current expansion stuff. You might not have to do that though. If you're just starting from scratch here in this expansion and you're not worried about selling other things, Maybe all you have are just the bases. Unfortunately, I cannot export these. I can't give you guys strings for these operations. But what I can do is show you how to make them, and you can copy and paste some of the algorithms that I've had. So in this same folder that I've been talking about, there's a document called Operations Setup Examples. And I'm going to show you guys what some of those look like in here so that you can set those up yourself. So if you, the thing that you want to note here is, let's just create one from scratch so that we can see how this would work. So up here on auctioning operations, I would hit the plus symbol. I now have a new operation. I'm going to rename this to class example for Enchanting. For the canceling feature, do you want to cancel undercut auctions? Yes, I want to have that option to cancel those auctions. Do you want to cancel it to repost higher? What that means is that since you last posted it, it turns out that you can actually post it for a higher amount because the total market of the 7-day average has shifted slightly. And so you've kind of underposted what you have the potential for doing. I don't want to do that. I just want to leave it where it was. That's a whole lot of fussing. So I'm going to hit no, please don't offer to cancel it to me because I have the ability to repost it higher. But if that's something that you want to do, go for it, leave it. So then for posting, so you pick your duration. Note that if you're going to cancel an item, you're going to lose your deposit. And so for some items that have a very high deposit, if you know you're likely to be canceling and reposting because other people are undercutting you, then just go ahead and set it for 12 hours. Then that'll use the lowest deposit, and then you'll lose the least amount of money if you have to cancel. 48 hours is the standard that a lot of people do for equipment or enchants that are going to sell quickly, whereas 24 hours might be, I have a feeling somebody's going to undercut me pretty soon. And 12 hours is, I know someone's going to undercut me really soon. I want to be able to babysit this and cancel and repost. So for enchants, I think it's safe to put 48 hours. How much do I want to post at one time? Well, it doesn't really matter these days. Why doesn't it matter? When you post a group of 40 items, 40 enchants, it no longer groups them in such a way that the person would have to buy all 40 that you put on the market. The way that the auction house changed recently is that a person can say, I only want one from that person. And so they're not forced with the grouping that you posted on there. So in reality, there's no reason why you can't post 1,000 of the same enchant at once. It's not forcing it into a single stack for the person. So just go ahead and leave the posting cap as high as you want. You can say a certain amount that you want kept in your bags if you want. Don't post after this many expires is an option you can set. I don't bother to do either of these. Posting price. Set the bid as a percentage of the buyout. Why does this say 100% and why does the undercut amount say 0C? Shouldn't you be undercutting people with actual amounts in order to be lower than them? No. The way that the auction house works now is it's last in, first out. So I don't have to undercut with actual money anyone to undercut them. If I post an item at the same as the lowest person who currently has theirs, mine will be bought first by anyone utilizing the auction house. So you do not have to undercut people with amounts. You can if you want to. If you want to, say I always want to be 1 gold underneath somebody, or rather than a gold, in case something wasn't worth a gold, you wanted to do a percentage, you could set that here. The minimum price. So this is a really complicated algorithm here that is completely unnecessary unless you understand algorithms and you want to utilize them. But effectively, what I'm going to use, the basic one that I'm going to use, and this, as I mentioned, is in my operations setup example, is that for something that's crafted, the minimum price that I want is take the max of 120% cost of the crafting to craft the item. So this ensures you make a profit, right? Because if I put 100% crafting, I'm selling it for the same thing I crafted it for. That's kind of silly. So it needs to be 120% of the cost of the crafting, or 80% of whatever the running last 7 days average is, the market value, but take the max of those two. So whichever one of these is higher, that's the minimum I am willing to sell this thing for. So that's essentially what this algorithm says. Take the max of either 20% of profit or 80% of the market value, whatever the max is of the two. And then this little tooltip here that I have, this isn't going to stay here in this algorithm. It will break it. This is just what I had in the document for my suggestion. When below the minimum, set it to don't post the items. And I just lost my thing because I didn't hit enter. Before you click out of here, you need to hit enter or it won't save it. So there we go. So I'm telling it, just leave it in my bag. Now, what will happen is maybe in 4 days, I come back and now the market has shifted and the average over the last 7 days, it's raised. And now this is appropriately what I want it to be. I want it to be higher. And so it will successfully post it. Otherwise, it just leaves it in my bag for the time being. So this keeps you from losing money, this minimum price here. Maximum price. I'm going to copy from my thing over here. So for maximum price, I have the max that you should ever try to sell this thing for so that you don't ruin the economy is 150%, which would be a 50% profit over the market, or 300% crafting, which would be a 200% profit. And so this just ensures that, and where does this come into play? Well, there's been some times where people have created an old alchemy potion, and because no one's buying it, it's setting it for like 10,000 G, which is ridiculous because the average is usually 1,000 G. And so I'm saying here, listen, if somebody has it for a super, super high price because they're trying to price gouge, reset it to something that's a little bit closer to market so that we keep the economy balanced out. Finally, normal price is what I want it to sell for. Normally, what I think it should sell for. So I think what would be nice is to always have a 100% profit in crafting, or slightly higher than the 7-day average for or DB market. And this max, remember, is saying take the max of these two items. When above the maximum, I want to say post at normal price. So essentially what this is saying is this is the minimum I'm willing to take for it. If the price is not at least this on the market, please don't post the item. This is the maximum price that I think anyone should ever have to pay for this. If it's above this maximum price, please set it to the normal price here. So that's what these three mean. And again, these three algorithms are in that document that I mentioned for you to copy and paste. If you want other ideas of all the possible algorithms you can do, because you can do a lot here, you can add in here. Also, don't post this at the minimum price if the max is the same as vendor sale price. No, vendor price? No. I can't remember what that algorithm is. I'd have to go to the TM site. Sorry, I don't honestly remember what it is. It's something about vendor. They have all the potential algorithms there. If you want to see what all your options are, you need to go to the lazygoldmaker.com. And he has a really great blog, and he shows you what all of your options are that you can set for these things and the different case scenarios of why you'd want to do them. And he has an explanation there about how to use vendor price. Why would I want to use vendor price in here? Because I had several old gems actually cuts, the pre-cut of the gem, not the final cut gem. And they were worth on the market. They were worth 3 gold and 52 silver, but you could sell them to the vendor for 3 gold and 50 silver. So kind of silly to be selling something for the same price as you could just sell it to a vendor. That's just a waste of time and resources in your deposits. So you could potentially say here, hey, don't sell this if it's the same as a vendor sale price. That's crazy. I need it to be at least 20% over the vendor sale price in order to make this worth my time putting on. So that's something that you could do. So that takes care of the posting tab. The final thing that you'll want to do here is you'll want to set what groups this goes to, because this currently it's not assigned to any particular group. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to select this plus sign and I'm going to say this applies to Enchanting. And for all crafted items, any crafted. If I'm doing something specific for no, I only want to do this for Shadowlands, then I would just hit Shadowlands. Otherwise, nope, this is for anything crafted by Enchanting. And then it looks like because I did not hit enter up here, it didn't save this name, so I'm going to do this again. And then hit enter this time. There we go. All right. So my operation is set up for auctioning. Any questions so far? All right. So now I'm going to go to a crafting operation. So the purpose of the crafting operation is to set up rules for restocking of that group by requiring a specific profit. So again, if you use my operation setup examples document, you'll see that an example of what you want the settings to be. So let's just go over Enchanting. So in Enchanting here, I'm saying I want the minimum number of this enchant that I'm selling to be 1. Now in reality, that should probably be 5. I should have at least 5 in my bags at all time attempting to sell. And by in bags, that also means in the auction house. So if you successfully have 5 on the auction house you're selling, they're going to continue that a quantity. And then it says, what is the max that you want to restock to? And I could say 5. I want you to restock 5 if I don't have 5. What's the minimum profit amount? Well, this is the minimum that I want to make on this for this to be worth my time. I'm not willing to restock enchants if I'm only going to be selling them for 2 gold on the auction house. It's just not worth it. But if I can make at least 100 G, then go ahead and restock it. The rest of this stuff is not necessary or applicable, so I'm not going to bother to go in and set it, except for group management down here. As I mentioned before, you need to actually select that what we're talking about is the Enchanting group. So to make sure that this, for anything crafted Enchanting, is what's selected. And you can see all those selected here. And then I'll show you guys here in a bit when we get into the tooltip for actual Enchanting, where this comes into play. As far as all the other operations that you can have here, mailing, shopping, sniper, vendoring, warehouse, those are all things that I have never explored, but I'm sure they have neat tricks and things that you can do. And so I encourage you guys to look at thelazygoldmaker.com, his blog, and see what he's done with these different operations in order to streamline and make things more efficient. But it's not something that I've utilized yet. So I'm not going to go into those areas now. Finally, for settings, you have general settings here. Nothing that I've ever needed to change. Tooltip settings. These are going to show you when you hover over an item. So let's say over here, see all of these tooltips that start with TSM. I've got general info, what group it's in, if it's part of a warehousing operation, if it's part of what its vendor sell price is, its inventory on all of my alts, what it's sold for, min, average, max, last sold. The minimum buyout is what it's currently on the auction house for at this moment. So this Enchant is currently selling for 45G. Its market value average over the last 7 days has been 47G. In other words, it's had the potential to cost a little bit more. The region market value average has been over 1,000. The region sell average is 216. I believe our region is, I believe that's saying Americas. That's our region. So on other servers, these are the sale prices too. Region sale rate. Region sale rate is in a percentage, but it's not reflected as so you have to move the decimal over. This is saying that this sells 1%. It has a 1% chance of selling, or 0.01. So you can see the region average daily sold on our region. It's selling 0.06 per day, that means several days before one of these actually sells. So that kind of lets you know what the likelihood is of this thing actually selling. Those tooltips are all governed here. So if you want more tooltips or less tooltips than any of those tooltips are currently set at, this is where you set and unset them. So that's the point of this page here. You can go through these and look and see if there's anything useful for you. Accounting, these are just general options. Do you want to track sales or not? Purchases via trade. And then you can clear all data. You can have different appearances if you want different colors here, whether you want to hide the mini map. For auctioning, it's just general things about sound and whether or not something's whitelisted. There is a feature for destroying. It will automatically pop up when you log into a character if you have any items in your bag that your particular toon can mill or prospect or disenchant. So if I type in /TSM destroy, oh, I don't have anything in my bags to do. So I'll do it on one of my other characters for you to see what that looks like when I bounce over here. But there, it will pop up a window that will let me do that. Mailing settings, custom source settings, crafting settings, these are the defaults. If I wanted to put those algorithms in here that I mentioned to you guys, I could do that, and then that would be set as a default for all future creations. Ignored cooldowns are this list over here. I'll show you on one of my other toons, but if you have the ability to craft something that is cooldown based, for example, transmuting a Parium bar, it will pop up here. So when you log into the character, it reminds you, hey, you have a cooldown you need to craft today. If you don't want to do that cooldown because you know it's not profitable, and with transmutations, it will block other cooldowns out. And so maybe you want to prioritize. Then you would simply do a shift click on that item, the little I here, and it would add it to this ignored cooldowns list. So you can see here where I've gone in and done that with several items on my alchemist, things that I do not want it to warn me about because it's not profitable. I don't want to waste my time on it. Macros. This is one that you're going to want to set. When we go to auction, and you'll see here in a minute when I go to auction, if you want to very quickly post all of the items at one time, if you set your shift and do it with your scroll wheel, then all you have to do is hold down shift and just scroll, and it will just run down the list and post for you. So that's where you would set that here as macros. The browse sniper, I have not played with these settings, but this is something you might want to look in and see, and I'll explain here in a bit what browse and sniper is, and then once you understand what those are, maybe it will help you navigate through these settings. And then vendoring, this was originally set to DB market, and it will allow you to bring up a screen to see if you want to vendor something. So let me just run over here really quick and show you what that is. So if I'm in the TSM4 and I go to the sell tab, you can see here that here's the potential. This is what it's going to sell for. Here's the potential that it could sell for on the market. And originally this was set to DB market. But what I was finding was, even though the last 7-day average may have been 3 gold, the current minimum was 2.5 gold. And these things here, this is not worth my time trying to sell. I'm going to make 18 cents on these. No thanks. Selling you. You know, the questionable meat, same thing. It just, you know, there's a lot of things here that's just not worth my time selling. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to get rid of these things. Now here, I have the potential of making just a little under 1 gold profit on each of these items. Is it worth it to me? Well, it really depends. How many do I have? I have 120 in my bag, so I'm going to make 120 gold profit. If I were to sell all of them, then yeah, sure, I guess I'll hang on to them. But this one here, Runic Healing Potion, I'm only going to make 40 silver on each. Not worth it to me. I'm selling it. This fragment, nope, I'm going to sell it. Speed potion, I'll make a gold each. I guess it's worth my time. Now, once you start getting really good at this, 1 single gold profit is not going to be worth your time. Like for me, I would start saying I want to make 10 gold off of something each because I'm, you know, playing in the big game now, and I'm not wanting to sit here and waste my time posting, you know, potions of speed for, you know, a 1 gold profit. So that's what that setting was for. If we back here into settings, as far as vendoring, so I changed mine to DB min buyout. In other words, what is the current minimum? Whereas I think it was originally DB market. So you can reset that there. Okay. We are done with the setup and this of that stuff. That is the bulk of the work. That's the hardest part. I know it was quite a bit. So now we're going to jump into the actual crafting windows. So I'm going to log over to one of my crafters here. I'll get on my jewel crafter, Zenobia. So here's the TSM destroying window that I talked about. If I hit destroy next, it will automatically prospect for me on these. If I want to ignore it for this session, I can left click once on this little you know, eye symbol of don't watch this. If I want to permanently never be offered to destroy this, I would hold down shift and I would click on it. So you can see here, these are all of my cooldown options that I can do daily. It's offering them to me. If I had the mats, right now it's saying need mats. If I had the mats already in my bag to do it, it would just say craft. And if I clicked on it, it would automatically craft these for me in here. So I'm going to leave this task list. Actually, I'm going to close it as if I accidentally closed it to show you guys how to open it again. So I'm going to open my jewel crafting window, and you can see I'm immediately in. This is the TSM version of crafting. Just as a reminder, this is the WoW UI version. This is the TSM4 version, and I can switch back and forth between the two. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to take note of the profit column here. This is profit after the app has subtracted the cost of the materials. If you already had the materials in your bag, then it would be an even greater profit. But the idea of this is that you are not having to go out and farm the items. This is purely just, if I want to just buy them off the auction house and craft them, what's my profit going to be? So that's what this app is geared towards. The first thing you want to pay attention to here is the profit. So you have to decide, is it worth your time to make? Well, one that's, I'm going to have a 100G profit. Yeah, that's worth it for me to make. So that's the one I'm going to focus on. But don't make several of this item unless it's close to a 1% chance of selling. That's what this thing is here. This is telling the percentage chance of you selling it. If I hover over the item here and look at the tooltip, it's showing me here that On average, 15 a day are sold. Well, to me, that's worth it. That's really good. So even though 0.32, 32% sounds low, that's actually really good. If I even saw one selling a day, I would call that a good chance that I'm going to sell one. So this is something that I would craft. I would add it to my queue here. Now it's saying that I can't make it. Something's missing. What's missing? Well, if I look at gathering and change the crafter to Zenobia, apparently it's that I need a setting and a wire, and I need to make this deadly jewel craft cluster. Now from the gathering tab, if I had accidentally closed it, I can open that task list again here. And it's showing me here, you need to go buy from a vendor these items, and you need to craft this here, but you need the mats for it. So I look at my deadly jewel cluster right here. I need to make 2 of them. So I add 2 and I hit to the queue. And now it's saying you need to buy items in order to make this cluster. You need to buy these items, the setting and the malleable wire. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to run over to my jewel crafting vendor. As soon as I click on him, as long as I'm in the TSM, do you see how over here this button changed to buy because it recognized I was at the vendor? And if I hit buy, it's immediately going to buy the amounts that I wanted. Bam. It's that easy. So I don't have to search through here and find what I needed to. That won't work if I was in the WoW UI view, by the way. So you want to make sure you're in that and then reopen it with him. So I've completed the jewel crafting items that I needed. So now it says open to create these. So I hit open and I hit craft. And it automatically makes them. And then it was unnecessary for me to add them here. I was doing that just so you guys could kind of see what I needed. So I'm going to remove that by hitting X. And now it's saying, yep, you've got everything you need now in order to make that ring. So I'm going to hit, you can either click on the item here or you can hit craft next. And bam, it made it for me. So that's how you quickly craft things. Well, so now I want to sell that on my bank tune. And I send all of my stuff to one single bank tune to manage selling and auctioning. Otherwise, it's too crazy if you try to do this from your individual characters. What's an easy way to sell everything that I've crafted in my bags for jewel crafting at one time without having to search through it? Well, when you open this mail feature, you have a tab up here that says groups. I'm going to just make sure that I've deselected all groups just in case. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to hit jewel crafting crafted, any expansion, everything I've ever crafted in jewel crafting. I want to go to my tune. That's my auction house tune. And so if I hit mail selected groups, it says nothing to send. Well, I don't understand. I just made a ring. How can there be nothing to send? I better check my groups and see, did it make it in that group? So I click on TSM, I click on groups, and lo and behold, I have a ring that's ungrouped. So I've never added it to the group before. So I'm going to click on Jewel Crafting, Crafted SL. I'm going to click on the ring. I'm going to hit add one item. So now it's over here. Now I'm going to hit close. I'm going to open the mail again. I'm going to try this again. Groups. I want you to send, and it should still be highlighted. Yes, it is. Mail selected groups, and boom, it automatically sent that to Soggy Bottoms for me. If I wanted to craft something that other characters had items of, so for example, here it says I could mass prospect a lithium, but this character can do 0, but there's enough on other characters to do 6. And so I say, okay, well, let me find out who those are. So I hit add. And it says here, I go into Gathering, select Crafters and Nobia. It says here, I need to, just open my mail. There it is. And so now when I go into crafting, it says you can do it now. If I wanted to say, okay, I want to do 3 of these, queue it. For the gathering here, it says switch to Soggy Bottoms. That means I have that item on another character. So I would log into that character and mail these. And the neat thing is, I don't even have to find them in my bag. So let's just see. I'm going to log out onto Soggy Bottoms. BNet seems to be having some errors this morning, claiming I'm not actually logged in. Now, the gathering could potentially tell me you need to go to the bank and get the items out. But in this case, it says just mail them. In other words, it's already in my bag. All I have to do is open and hit send, and it's going to send them immediately. Now let's see. I'm going to show you guys what it looks like if technically I have them in the bag or in the bank. Okay. So if I actually have them in the bank, then what it's going to tell me is move from the bank. And so when I click on move, and I think I somehow bugged it just now by dumping them in. So I apologize for that. Normally, if it's already in the bank, what you'll see here is get from bank. And then when you open the bank, it'll say move. And so you click on it and it immediately moves it into your inventory for you, the exact amount that you need. And I bugged it though doing that. So my apologies. And then so I click on this and I hit send and bam, it sends it to her. And then it tells me, okay, Zenobia is ready. Now you can log out and go over to her. So that's how you collect things from other alts. If you want to know how it's prioritizing, when you open your crafting, if you hit on gathering, it tells you the materials that need to be gathered and what the sources are. And it might say some items here are auction house, some are alts. This is how many you have. This is how many you need on that particular character. You can make sure all of your professions are selected that you want to. You can change your source priority here. If you want to make sure that we always look to the guild bank first and then the vendor and then crafting, then I want to bother my alts. Otherwise, I mean, you can change this order however you want here. So that's what you can do. The second thing in crafting that I want to point out is, let me hop over to Holyrain. So remember how we set up the crafting groups where we said we only want to restock things if they're making a certain profit. Well, I'll show you where that came into play after we went to all the trouble to do that setup. So for enchanting here, and I'm going to remove all of these so they're not gumming things up. On this crafting list, instead of the crafting list tab, if I pick the TSM groups tab, I'm going to deselect everything and I'm going to say for enchanting and only Shadowlands, please restock. Oh, interesting. There's nothing where I can make 100G or this would have populated. Let me try picking all. Yep. Interesting. So that lets you know that you can't make a profit on enchanting right now in Shadowlands. Probably the market's being flooded. So here, it's saying it's immediately added for me, all 5 of these here, and I can immediately start crafting them. It looks like I'm missing several items though. So if I click on gathering and select holy, You can see these are all the things I need to buy from the auction house. It looks like I have a few characters have some of those items on them, so it's directing me to go log out to them and collect them and send them. Here's the stuff I need to run up to the vendor and buy. Here's all the things I need to buy from the auction house. I'm going to reduce the cooldown here so we can see what else happening here. So this is my shopping list. And once I enact this entire shopping list, I can reopen this crafting, and every single one of these will have 5 of 5 able to make. I'll craft them all, and then when I'm all done, I'll run to the mailbox and I'll mail them all to Soggy, and she'll start posting them. Now, here's the thing that I want you to pay attention to. There was no setting for crafting that said only make this if it has a high likelihood of selling. If there's a way to do that in the app and you guys figure it out, I'd love to know. But unfortunately, what I've had to do is go in and hover on each of these. See this one here? It only has a 2% or 2% chance of selling and only sells 0.08 a day. I don't want to go to the trouble to make these. They're not going to sell. I might not ever get my money back. And so I'm going to click on the X and remove it. This one here has a 0.02. Nope, no thank you. Not going to make it. So you do have to do a little bit of extra legwork here to remove the things that it's unlikely that you're going to sell. And since this is a whole lot of items, maybe when I first do my TSM groups, maybe I don't pick every past expansion. Maybe I just pick the last 2 and focus on those ones and then increase it from there if I need to. But I'm still really fascinated with the fact that you can't even make a 100G profit on the current enchants. That sucks for enchanters. So that's where us setting up the crafting operations came into play to help us restock. The gathering I already talked about. You just make sure your character is selected for the crafter that you want to be focusing on for the moment that has a list of items that it needs to craft. And if this was accidentally closed, you can open it again here by hitting Open Task List. And for the reports, if there's a particular algorithm that's failing when you go to run in the auction house and it says that's not a valid thing, there's no such thing as a cost for that item, that material, that's because it might be a bind on pickup item that doesn't have a market value because you can't buy it, and so it has no recorded value. So the way that you can override that is when you're in this reports, you're in materials specifically. Find the material that's giving you a problem that seems to have no value. And I'm going to scroll down here to show you an example. So all of these items, like spare parts, it has no cost in the market house. So you see no MAT price here. And so when you go to sell something of food using spare parts, you can't, it fails because it says, I don't know how to calculate what this is worth. And so if I click on this here, I can say the spare parts in my mind are worth 10G a piece. Or maybe you put 100G. It's whatever you think it's worth. And then you hit save. And so now that has a material price that you've manually set. And so it can properly calculate how much it thinks that the food you made from it will cost. So that's the point of this reports materials here. All right, so now let's go back to my auctioning character. Now we're going to get into the fun part of actually doing the auctioning. This is the part everybody's been waiting for, the actual gold making part. So, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to open my mail. You can see that I have all of these options from the mail. I want to say it's telling me here the total gold. Now, this isn't the total gold I've made for the day. This is the total gold of the things that they can show in my mailbox. Remember, there's a limit to how many items you can be receiving in your mailbox at one time. So for this particular screen, it looks like I've made 938 gold. I'm going to hit all sold, so it just pulls in that there. And Then whatever's left is, if I know I've mailed myself things and I don't want to mess with those right now, I just want to do a reposting of the expired, I could hit all expired. If it's okay that I take things that other people have mailed me or myself, I can do that. Now, as soon as I remove some of those items, some more populated in here, you can see where I sold a shadow gas ring for 18,000. So I could hit that again if I wanted to. But I'm just going to go ahead and hit open all mail. And it's going to immediately bring everything in. Anything that I can destroy, it's going to offer it for me to destroy, but I have no intention of destroying things on this character. So I'm just going to hit X. So we'll just let it populate here. These are all things that have expired. All right. And I've still got a ton of things in there, so I've filled up my bags, and so I'm going to run over here. And I'll show you how I go about posting these. So when I open the auction window here, I have my first option is browse. This is where you can do individual search for an item, or you can run a shopping scan and you can pick a particular set of things that you want to shop for. Let's say I want to look for all of the SL herbs, and I can hit run shopping scan. And so it's immediately going to show me all of the herbs from that group. It looks like I also had mining selected, so it's showing me how low things are. There are people that are selling things at 27% of their normal market value. And so if I wanted to, let's say I want to do flipping, I think I can make some money off of this. So I select it here and I say buy out, and anything below 80%, I can type in the number, or to make it a lot easier, I can hold shift left click down and I say all of these groupings and I say, yep, anything under 80%, I want to buy this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around and put this on the market for 100% its value and make a big profit, because its true value should be close to 7G. And so I'm going to be making a profit of 1G, 3G for some of these, 5G and 6G per ore. And since people are going to come onto the market and wanting to be buying osmonite ore, and very likely that they're very quickly going to burn through these 613 ores being offered, because if you hover over it, 683 gets sold a day. So people are going to burn through these, and then they're going to get up to mine at 100%, and they're going to buy them, and I'm going to make a huge profit. So I've just now done flipping. So I'm going to buy all those there to flip them. Now, that's how you use the browse and shopping. If you also want to look up the value of something in your bag, you don't have to type it in. You can hold down the shift key and then left click it, and it will immediately search for it. And from here, you can either click on it and do buy out and select your amount, or you could even hit post, and I could post it for the lowest amount if I wanted to. Whichever one I have highlighted is what it'll post it for. So that's an option. For the auctioning tab, if I want to, I have everything selected at one time, all groups, because I'm interested in completely emptying my bag, so I don't unselect any of these. If I want to see the ones that I've been outbid on, I can hit a run, or undercut. I can hit run a cancel scan. And so these are all the items that somebody's undercut me and that I might want to cancel and repost. So I can either hit cancel multiple times, or I can do shift and scroll, because remember I built that macro, and it's canceling all of these so that I can repost them. I do not want to cancel an auction I've undercut. I'm going to hit skip, because that's good. It's at a good price. But then I'm going to keep going down through these. And boom, I'm done. So I'm going to hit exit scan. And now I'm going to post everything in my bags. So I hit run post scan. It looks like I have a little warning down here. Warning, your minimum price for the lava lazuli is below the vendor sale price. Think about selling that to the vendor. So when I get to that one here, I'm going to hit skip and not sell it. I'm just going to sell it to the vendor because it's not worth my time. You can see some of these are you're undercutting a competition. This one is no one else is selling this but you, so we're posting it at the normal price. This one here is it's currently below the minimum price, so we're going to post it at minimum. I did that specifically on my ore operations because, as I just showed you, the intent is to flip it. And so I want to sell it at 100%, even though there are known people still selling it as low as 80%, because I know that those are going to get burned through. And my intent is to make a profit. It was not worth my time doing if I'm going to undersell it. So that's why it's saying we're going to post it at your minimum instead of the minimum that it is for the market right now. So I'm just holding my shift key down and scrolling. I'm not repeatedly hitting post. It just looks like I am. And this is a lot faster than hitting post. And it's posting all of these things for me immediately. You can see them disappearing from my bag. There we go. And then I go back to my mail and pick up the rest of them now that I have room. These are all items that were not going to make a profit, and so they didn't sell them for me. So I just leave them in my bag. You could potentially, I could have put them in the bank too for now if I wanted to. Go. So now I have a whole other set to post. If you want to do a quick auction post of one item while you're in auctioning, do a shift left click of it and we'll immediately post it for your operational rules for JC Current. And so you can post it. So Sniper is a way to do flipping. I have only played with this 1 or 2 times. So there's some pretty in-depth explanation of how to use Sniper on Lazy Goldmaker's blog site. So I encourage you guys to go check that out if you want to learn how to do. But essentially, this is a tool that's going to run and it's going to pick up on all possible items that are well under a certain percentage and have the potential for being flipped. And so you would buy them out here and then turn around and flip them and make a bunch of gold. So that's what Sniper is. And so I encourage you guys to check that out if you want to. And so I'm going to pause that because that I think can take up to 5 minutes. And then, of course, the auctions that I have on here, it's just if you need to cancel an auction, you have that ability here. One of the things I want you guys to pay attention to when you're selling items that have different potential item levels, say like a vessel. So here I'm selling a Grim Veiled Robe for 225. Oh, another process is in action. Let's try this again. I want you to notice there are different levels of the robes. And it looks like TSM might have cleaned its act up recently, but for the longest time, TSM would try to post it for the lowest. I would undercut the lowest. And even though I had a 225, it was trying to undercut a 190. And that's not appropriate, and that ruins the economy. So I don't want this posting for 640G. I want it, and I don't want it posting for 7990. I want it posting for the lowest of the 225s, and it looks like the lowest of the 225s is just under 15,000. And so I kind of manually go in and do these ones because I'm always scared to death, because in the first couple weeks of the game, it was trying to post it at these low prices. But if I check here, it looks like it's doing it correctly. So this band is 117 eye level, but there are 100 eye levels being made and sold. And it was trying to post it at the 100 level, but it looks like TSM has repaired it and is now appropriately posting it at the 117 level. So that looks like it's working. But so anyways, that is how I am making gold. It looks like I made about 100,000 since yesterday. So I'm slowly coming back up to recouping on my costs that I've been doing to try to make vessels. Any questions? Nope, just processing. It's a lot of information. In the document, the Gold Making 101 with TSM and No Farming, I have resources at the bottom. My favorite gold making Twitch streamers is Lazy Gold Maker and Zanzarful, in Zanzarful. They stream almost every day, and they're a blast to chat with. They have less than 100 viewers at any one time, and so you can ask questions. You can say, hey, how do I set this up? A bunch of people are in there. They'll offer you how to fix it, so you can do that. Then my favorite blog is lazygoldmaker.com, one of those streamers. And then if you want to watch some how-to videos besides mine, Hazelnutty Games did some how-to YouTube videos for TSM, and I have the link directly to her playlist there in that document, or you could just search for yourself. And that's it. That's my spiel. No questions?